These colour bars should correspond as closely as possible to those that are printed on the enclosed leaflet. Simply adjust the colour, contrast and brightness controls of your set until they look the same. Don't worry if you can't get an exact match. The tape is divided into a number of sections for easy reference, starting with foundation and going right through to lipstick, and you'll be able to see how the makeups work on 2 different age groups. First of all, some basic facts about your skin. A good skincare routine is important. It doesn't need to be complicated, it can be very simple. Just cleanse and tone and moisturize. The important thing is that you do it regularly. You may think that your skin is all one colour, but in fact it isn't. It's made up of lots of different colours. This is why skin is sometimes referred to as sallow, which is yellowish, or cool, which can be blue or green overtones, or ruddy, which is red. Before you start your makeup, make sure that you're in a good light. Daylight's the best, and that should be flat onto your face, and daylight's free. Don't make up if you've got an overhead light, because that will cast downward shadows. Don't make up with a side light, because that will cast sideways shadows. And don't make up with the light behind you, because you won't be able to see what you're doing. Right, so you're ready to start your makeup. You're cleansed and you're moisturised. You're sitting in a good light source. Now, the starting point is usually your foundation. Have you ever thought what your foundation is made of? There are vegetable glycerides, which are vegetable extracts, avocado oil, almond oil, wheat germ oil, which is a natural preservative, and of course pigment, which gives the foundation its colour. So as you can see, your foundation is made up of more than one colour, as is your skin. Now the first stage of your makeup is probably going to be foundation. Now before you apply it, get used to using a damp cosmetic sponge. Dip the sponge into water or run it under the tap. Squeeze out the surplus liquid. Damp isn't soaking wet like that. Damp means take a tissue or a towel and give it a good squeeze like this to get out any excess water, because water, of course, will make your foundation streak. Then when it's just damp, you're ready to use your foundation. You can mix the colours together, and I'm going to do this today. If you are something just in between, this is a very good thing to do, and of course the sponge will mean that you can do it very easily. You can mix them together with your finger. Take the foundation up with the sponge, and then you're ready to begin by putting the foundation onto the middle of the face first. Always start by putting the foundation on the centre of your face, because you don't want a lot of foundation all over the edges of your face and into the hairline. You have to have somewhere to blend it to. If you've picked the right colour foundation, you won't need to take it all the way down your throat. Now, picking the right colour foundation means testing it. Take a little bit of foundation and test it on the side of your cheek, just about here. If it's a good match, you won't get a tide line. A sponge will help you spread the foundation really well over your face, and it gives you that very fine, flawless finish. A little over the eyelids, but not too much. If you've got a young skin, and it's a good skin, you may not want to wear foundation at all, but that's fine. Or you may want to wear just a little bit of foundation, maybe just over your nose and a little bit over the cheeks. Not too much under the eyes. That's good for every age. An absolute minimum amount of makeup around the eye area.
And on Karen?
Don't be misled into thinking that just because you've got a like that you have to start warming up your face with different colour foundations like that. I mean, that is not going to work. That colour is too dark, but it's the kind of colour that you can often be encouraged to buy because people tell you that you need warming up, but it's wrong. So we'll take that off. Always test your foundation on your face and find a colour that matches as near as possible to your skin tone. And you can see that that is going to match very well because it will blend into your neck without leaving a tide mark. And now we know that we've found the right colour foundation and we start to put it on. Always begin in the middle of the face, not too much. Very often with an older skin, you've got to be careful with foundation. It's really a bit like a very young skin. Too much foundation can look too caked, too obvious, and you have to be very careful not to get foundation in any areas that are lined or wrinkled, like the area around the eyes. Remember to match your foundation to your skin colour. Use a damp sponge to apply. Work from the centre of your face outwards so you don't get makeup in your hairline, and apply less foundation to older skins. Whether you're using a foundation or not, you will probably want to use a concealer. This is a concealer. It's a kind of a solid sort of foundation. You can use it straight from the stick with your fingertips and draw it straight onto your face, but the best way is with a brush. You load it up like you would a lipstick. Make sure that any surplus just comes off on the back of your hand first, and then you apply it to the face. It's wonderful for just covering any dark shadows under the eyes. Just paint it on gently. You can see why it's a good idea to use a brush. If you drag the skin under your eyes, you can emphasize bags and wrinkles, and then don't rub, just pat the concealer into place with your fingertip. No dragging. And remember, concealer goes on over the top of your foundation or straight onto your skin after moisturizer. You may find that you want to use more than one colour. I'm using a slightly darker shade here, just over the nose area. You can mix them together just like you did with foundations. Mixed with a little of the lighter one. That's going to reduce any redness. And then blend it in with your fingertip. And again, use the brush to get in any nooks and crannies like this around the nostril. If you do happen to have any spots or blemishes like this one, you can just dot on concealer, press it in with your finger, and if you've got any red areas, you can just put concealer over them rather than using a thick layer of foundation. It's a much better idea to use a little bit of concealer and just blend it in with your finger like that. The brush helps you locate it where you want it to be. And then you'll be ready for face powder. If you've got good skin and you feel you don't want to wear foundation at all, that's fine. You can just use concealer on its own. If you have red marks, and one often does have red marks, especially around the nose area, you can just dot concealer on with a brush and then pat it in with your finger, and if you have high colour, say, on your cheeks, which is quite a common thing to happen, especially if you get a few red veins, you can just use a little concealer over any red areas too. Now again, be very careful. If you've got shadows under your eyes and you want to cover them, only put the tiniest bit of concealer on with a brush. Don't let any concealer get into lines underneath the eyes here or into the wrinkles at the side, because it will only emphasize them. You can't cover wrinkles with makeup. All you'll do is make them look much, much worse. If in doubt, use less. And the same for the area down by the side of the mouth or round the nose. Just touch up with the concealer on the brush, pat it in with your finger, and remember, do this in a really good light. Daylight's best, because you don't want to look like you've got little patches on your skin. Any little red marks. And don't rub or drag, and be especially careful on the area around the eyes. This isn't a good place to rub or drag anyway, because you really can stretch the skin quite badly. You notice that I never pull at all. I'm just patting and pressing. And then when you feel the skin looks completely even, you're ready to go on to the next stage.
Eyeshadows are often described as eye bags. They really aren't the same thing at all. A shadow under the eye would be in this area and look dark like this. A bag would look more like this. Concealers should only be applied to shadows, so remember, lighter colours applied to eye bags will only emphasise them. Apply concealer with a brush after foundation or moisturiser. Use different colours for different areas, since they mix together easily. Pat in, don't rub to blend. Remember not to put concealer on fine lines or wrinkles or over eye bags.
Loose face powder. Among its main ingredients are talc, silk, and of course colour pigment. Modern powders like this are very light and transparent. We call them translucent, and translucent means see-through, so you can actually see your skin through it. But on the other hand, it doesn't create a thick mask-like appearance. It's very easy to use, and all you have to do is just shake a little into the palm of your hand, not the old flower bag look where you used to have absolutely masses all over the face. And then use a powder puff, dab it away on the palm of the hand, and then apply it to your face. As you did with the foundation, you do the same thing with powder, which is start in the centre of the face, because this zone here, we call it the T-zone, is normally the oiliest anyway. So press the powder, again, don't rub, just press it into your skin. Even if you're not wearing foundation, this is the right way to apply face powder. And just dab it around the centre area of your face, and then use what's left on the puff around the cheeks. And then a very little, just look straight ahead, under the eyes. There's really nothing left now. I'm just using the last of what was on the powder puff. Now, powder really is important. It holds the makeup in place, and it gives your skin that really poreless look, especially here where you can tend to look a bit sort of oily, even if your skin isn't very oily. This will hold the makeup in place, make the skin look very smooth and flawless. And that prepares your whole face as a basis for whatever colours you might add afterwards. And before you start to do eye makeup, just run a little bit of powder over the lid. Takes away the grease. and means that if you're using powder eyeshadows, they won't crease too easily afterwards. Again, loose face powder and pressed into the middle of the face, just as I did before, really, on Maxine. Now, not too much. If you have got lines, or even if your skin's a bit dry, you need to probably use less powder rather than more. And I'm making that little bit that I had on the powder puff really go a long way, and I haven't put any at all around the eyes yet. To help the makeup stay on, we will actually need a little bit of powder. I'm putting it just on the eyelid. Also helps to stop creasing. And then really and truly, with nothing on the puff at all, just enough to use the powder puff to blot off any excess moisture around the eye. I'm just going around the area of the eyes, but no powder at all. Not great wodges of it, especially again on this area around here. But you can see how it makes the skin look much smoother. Loose powder is really the best thing to use to prepare and set your makeup for the day, but of course you may want to do touch-ups during the day, in which case you're probably going to want to use a compact powder like this. None of these little thin applicators or cotton wool like this is really suitable for putting on powder. Cotton wool's bad because the little filaments can fly off and get into your eyes and into your eyelashes. And these little pads, although they may be convenient, they just pick up dirt and grease, which then gets transferred from your face back onto the powder, then back onto the puff again. So the professional way is to use a nice fluffy brush like this, and that means you can just pick up the amount of powder that you want on the brush and dust the excess off onto the back of your hand before you apply it to your face.
Apply loose face powder with a powder puff, but compact powder with a brush. Pat and press the powder onto your face, and remember, rubbing can cause streaking. Be careful not to use too much powder around your eyes, especially if you have any lines. Always start by powdering your nose and chin first.
Powder blush is probably the most popular kind of blusher to use, but it's also the one you can make the most common mistakes with, which is basically putting it on in the wrong place. If you try and shape your face with blush, all you'll have are big red streaks down here, or perhaps even under your chin. So remember, there's one really easy way of putting on your blush, which is take a good brush, a nice fat one is the best kind, dust it round your powder blush, and then remember, and this is a good thing to remember with all the makeup that you do, dust off the surplus on the back of your hand first, and then apply it straight onto the skin. Now you can see, if you've got the right kind of brush, it just does the work for you, straight over the cheekbone, so that if you imagine it's a kind of a teardrop shape here. It's what you call sort of the apple of your cheek. And the brush will actually do the work for you. Just sweep it over the cheek itself. And because it's in the right place, it actually shapes the face naturally. Cream blush is perfect for a younger skin or an older skin, or if your skin is dry, and for a very natural look. All you have to do is just smooth a little bit onto your finger, and then just dot it onto your cheek. It couldn't be easier to put on. And then just blend it in with your fingertips, lightly, over your cheek. Don't worry about where to put cream blush. Just blend it over your cheeks to make your skin look naturally flushed. you ever think you've got a little bit too much on, use your cosmetic sponge. Just wipe it over the cream blush. It'll blend it and lift any surplus off. Cream blush is as easy to apply on an older skin as it was on Maxine's younger skin. The big trick about cream blush is, of course, to put it on before you put any face powder on at all. And just dot it onto your cheeks and blend it in, like I did before. Don't try and make your face look thinner with blush. You can't sort of shape your face away with it. What you can do is make your skin look very healthy, give the face a real glow, and cream blush works very well for this. Cream blush is also very, very good for older skins because it tends not to settle on the surface of the skin. It isn't dry and it gives a very soft look because it's got a natural sheen all of its own. And it's also very good if you're not wearing foundation but you just want to add some colour to your face.
Don't try to slim down your cheeks by using blushes or shaders. They will only make your face look stripy instead of making your skin look healthy. Don't try to attempt to shade away a double chin. Blushes or shaders used heavily on your jawline will create a tide mark. Never shade your nose heavily, since it makes the skin look a different colour from the rest of your face and draws attention to your nose. Dust excess blusher onto the back of your hand before you apply it to your cheeks. Stroke powder blush onto the apple of your cheeks using a large blusher brush to avoid streaks. Remember, always apply cream blush before you use face powder, but powder blush after. Cream blush is good for young or older skins if you want a very natural look.
Eyeshadows contain talc and mica, which is a natural element mined from rock. It's used to add iridescence. Also almond oil, silk, and of course colour pigment. Remember how I explained that your skin is made up of several different colours? Well, actually, the same is true of your eyes. Take a close look at your own eyes, and you'll see that they're made up of, well, up to 3 or 4 different colours. These colours can often be a clue as to the eyeshadow colours that you can use and will look good on you. Maxine has got what appears to be blue eyes, but if you look closely, they're actually dark grey around the edges and copper in the middle. Now I'm going to start off by using a copper eyeshadow on her eyelid first. I'm going to apply the eyeshadow with a brush. Load up your brush. Again, dust the surplus off on the back of your hand. This is a really good thing to remember always, because that way the surplus drops off onto the back of your hand and not all over your cheeks. And then onto the eyelid. You can blend with your finger, but it's a good idea to use brushes to blend if you want a really professional looking finish. Blue eyes and blue eyeshadow is really an old myth. In fact, blue can often deaden the colour of your eyes. So try and use a contrasting colour. Blue actually looks very good with brown eyes, looks very good with green eyes, and that's a good general rule. Use a contrasting colour or more than one colour, as I'm going to do today. This is an eyeshadow pencil. I've chosen a grey which matches the grey in Maxine's eyes, and I'm going to emphasise the shape of her eyes by darkening the outer edges of her upper lid. This is powder eyeshadow, so it blends very well with the shadow that I've put on already. Eye shapes seem to be variable, but in fact, if you look at your own eyes, and at someone else's, you'll notice for the most part the eye shape itself is more or less always the same. What does change is the area around it. Some people have a lot of lid here and some people just have a little bit. There's a good basic rule, which is anything that you highlight will stand out and anything that you darken will go back. So if your eyes stick out too much here, keep them dark and that'll set them back, and if you want them to come out more, highlight them. When you're putting colour on the bottom of your eyelashes, don't go too far along, just halfway is far enough, then you've got somewhere to blend it to, because blending is really important. Otherwise it's going to look like hard lines around your eyes. A nice big fat brush, that'll just do the job without having any particular skills at all. Gives you a really professional looking eye makeup. Use the edge of your brush to blend underneath your eyes, not the flat bit like that. Just run the edge right along the bottom lid. And make sure that you get the eyeshadow close to the lashes so that you haven't got a white line running too close to the lashes. And blend the two colours one into another. And that way, what looked too dark before now looks nice and soft. Karen also has blue eyes, but I'm going to use a completely different combination of colours this time. Now I'm going to start by using a yellowish colour. It's actually an old gold. And it's a very good colour for blondes because it looks quite natural, and also it's a very good colour to use if you want a nearly no eyeshadow look. I'm just going to blend it in with a brush. It's quite important to remember to blend with brushes, especially if you have any tendency to crepiness on your eyelid. You don't want to pull the skin around. Now, it's not a good idea, if your eyelids are beginning to get at all crepey, to use very shiny eyeshadows like this, because it'll just make them look a bit like elephant hide. Now, if you want to add emphasis to your eyes, you can put a bit of shading in the socket line. If you've got any area that sticks out too much, you can shade it back. We can emphasize Karen's socket line by putting a little bit more powder eyeshadow just here. Now, as you get older, you often find that your eyes tend to droop a bit at the corners, so don't let your shadow start to creep down into the area where you might have lines. Blend the shadow with your brush. Again, no pulling around with fingers. You really can't get a professional look or get your makeup to stay on properly if you try and do it all with your fingertips, because they do tend to be a bit greasy. And also, of course, you pull the skin around, which isn't a good idea. If you don't want to wear eyeshadow, but perhaps you just want to shade back a heavy lid, you could use the shading like this on its own in the socket line without putting any colour at all on the lid, which would be fine, and a very good way for making the eye shapely, setting back anything that looks baggy, but looking fairly unmade up at the same time. Don't forget, when you're putting on your eye makeup, look from one eye to another to make sure that it's even.
Look for the contrasting colours in your eyes as a guide to choosing colours. Dust off surplus shadow onto the back of your hand before application to avoid drop-off onto your cheeks. Use brushes to apply and blend colours together for a professional look and for a longer lasting eye makeup. Don't let eye makeup creep too low at the outer edges of your eyes if they droop.
Eyeliner or eye definer pencils can be used for emphasizing and lining your eyes. Sometimes they're called kohl. Remember, when you're applying an eyeliner, keep it close to the lashes and don't close your eye, because you get little puckers all along the skin here, and that makes it look ragged when you've finished. So keep your eye open. You can look down into a mirror and then draw the line really close to the lashes like this. And if you want to extend it at the outer edge, just look straight ahead into your mirror and just draw a little line, not a great big tick. I mean, that looks very old-fashioned. It's important to remember also to keep the colour really close so that you haven't got little white dots between your eyelashes and the eyeliner. Now, you can leave it in a line like that, but the best thing to do is to blend it. Now, you can use your finger, just a clean fingertip, to run over the eye line, or better still, use a brush. The brush you blended your eyeshadow with, or put it on with, will be perfect. And that will blend the line into the eyeshadow so it looks nice and soft. And yet, it will emphasize your eye shape. If you feel that you don't want to wear eyeshadow at all, because you think that your lids are in fact too crepey, but you do want to add definition to your eyes, this is the way to do it. Just use a pencil, don't stretch the skin too much, and look down into a mirror, if you like, held at chin level, and draw a line just carefully through the lashes. Even if you've got quite a big fold here, you can nearly always manage to get a very fine eyeline on. And a little bit of line underneath, no further than halfway along, because you do want to use your brush just very gently to blend it in so that it doesn't look too hard. You could also use the powder shadow pencil to do this as well, which will give you a very soft line.
Remember not to close your eyes, it causes the skin to pucker, and to draw the line as close to your lashes as possible. Blend the eye definer for a softer effect. Don't stretch the skin. Use a brush to blend eye definer on your lower eyelid.
Highlighters can be used for emphasizing any area of your face that you'd like to draw attention to. They're especially good for bringing out deep-set eyes, and they do make your eyes look soft and dewy. Highlighter pencil like this is really easy to use. Try not to use really stark white colours because they look very hard on the eye. So there's just a little bit drawn under the eyebrow bone, and then for that soft dewy look, a little V in the corner of your eye. And then of course you can't leave it like that, you must blend it. And the thing to do is to use a clean brush and just dust over the highlighter so that it blends into the eyeshadows you've already put on, and here in the corner of the eye. And then it really does look soft. The idea is to have a nice soft sheen, not a really hard, sharp highlight. This is a very soft pinkish colour. On an older skin, it's not a good idea to put too much highlight anywhere around the area that might be creased, and certainly not on the lid itself, and also not in the corners here. But a minute amount under the brow bone and properly blended in just adds a nice lustrous sheen which looks quite soft, and I think it's very, very young looking. If you want to do an eye makeup, which consists just of eyeliner and then probably mascara and a little highlight, that works very, very well for a very young, very soft look.
Highlighter can be used to draw attention to any area of your face or eyes. Don't use pearly highlighters on your eyelids or on fine lines or crepey skin. Amongst the main ingredients of mascara are carnauba wax and beeswax, colour pigments, silk, almond oil, jojoba oil, and aloe vera from the aloe plant.
Mascara can be one of the most important items of eye makeup. It really does make a difference, and it's important to get it right. 1 or 2 carefully applied coats combed through with an eyelash comb are much more effective than a thick layer of clumpy mascara. Always start with your top lashes and look down and then draw the mascara brush right from root to tip, pushing upwards. That helps to curl it a little bit. Do it slowly and carefully. Don't sort of jab at your eyes, because all that will happen is you'll push the brush into your eye. And if you find that they are sticking together at all you have to do is use your little comb and just comb the lashes through. It's a good thing to do this between coats anyway. It keeps them nice and feathery. If you've always longed to use coloured mascaras and are worried because you think they might look too bright if they're used completely on their own, try mixing them with black or brown. The thing to do is put a layer of coloured mascara in between the black or brown, a sort of mascara sandwich. This gives you a nice soft look. I'm using blue here, but it could well have been green or purple. And then a coat of black over the top. You have a nice soft look. Now for the bottom lashes, just run the mascara brush along the lashes slowly and carefully, and then just comb them out with the end. You can use the full length of the brush like this, but you always run the risk of getting mascara on your nose at the side if you do. So just use the tip of the brush to paint the lashes, again from root to tip. If you think your lashes have got too sparse, just try putting on a couple of thin coats of mascara and you'll be really surprised at just how good they can look. And I think even if you don't want to wear much makeup at all, mascara on the eyes makes all the difference. But remember, try and coat all the lashes with colour. That means brushing from root to tip right the way along. And the best way to do this is, in fact, to look down into a mirror held at chin level. And do it steadily. Don't look straight on into a mirror and sort of jab at it like that. Do it slowly and steadily so you can really brush the lashes properly all the way, the whole length, from the beginning right through to the end. Mascara your bottom lashes by looking up into a mirror, held up high above nose level, and that helps your lashes come away from the area underneath your eye, the lower eyelid. If you do get a blot of mascara, you can remove it with either a damp cotton bud, not a dry one, because the filaments of cotton wool can go into your eye. Or you can use a wet brush just to lift anything that may have dropped off the lashes and underneath the eye. Of course, if you're using really waterproof mascaras, you won't be able to do that. So they're not a good idea. Neither are mascaras that have a lot of filaments inside. Hold the mirror at chin level when you're putting mascara on your upper lashes. That enables you to sort of push the brush from root to tip from underneath. And then, when you're going to do your lower lashes, hold the mirror up above your head, keeping your chin down. That releases the lashes from the bottom lid, and then you can just draw the brush along without getting little blots on the lower lid.
Look down into a mirror held at chin level when applying mascara to your upper lashes. Look up into a mirror held higher than your eyes when applying it to your lower lashes. For softly coloured lashes, mix your coloured mascara with black or brown by alternating the coats. Remove blobs of mascara with damp cotton buds or a brush.
Eyebrows frame the eyes and can be emphasised in a number of ways, with pencils and with eyebrow makeup. Use the little wedge-shaped applicator to pick up some of the eyebrow makeup and then dust the surplus off onto the back of your hand before you apply it to the eyebrow. You can colour the hair and also just fill in any gaps and draw a little line at the same time. It's a very soft and natural way of emphasising your brows. Karen's got a problem that actually a lot of people have, which is one eyebrow, this one, is actually higher than the other one, that one. And I'm going to use eyebrow makeup to even them up. And when you're doing this on yourself, be very careful, because you must make sure that you do in fact make the two eyebrows the same. So use the little wedge-shaped chisel-ended brush, and then you can just colour in the other side. Darken it slightly to match up in depth. It's much easier to use than pencils, which can give you a very hard line. With eyebrow makeup you can colour the hair and the skin. And you can finally just make sure they're in shape with a little comb up. There you go.
Remember that I chose copper and grey eye colours to enhance those colours in Maxine's blue eyes. Blue eyes also look bluer when you use dusky pink eyeshadows, or a combination of yellows and browns. Both of these combinations emphasise the blue by contrasting with it. If she'd had green or hazel eyes, russet and dark grey would have been a good choice. So would clear and heathery pinks. Brown eyes, because of their strength of natural colour, look good with almost anything, but violets contrast well and look especially good at night. Grey blue is also very effective, but don't choose pale or pearly colours. Karen also has blue eyes, although they are slightly more grey. Old gold and taupe for emphasis give her a very subtle eye makeup. Bright colours such as pale blue or pearly turquoise are not the most flattering colours for an older skin. Stick to softer, more muted tones such as taupe with gold and browns or peaches. If Karen's eyes had been green or hazel, deep turquoise and grey, or a mix of stone and fir tree green would bring out the colour of her eyes. Brown eyes, which look naturally deeper anyway, can take slightly more vibrant tones, such as copper with a little pink in the socket, or heather with grey. Apply your lightest shade of shadow along the first half of your upper eyelid, the darkest colour on the outer edges, and blend a little along the socket line. This is a simple way of applying eyeshadow and will suit most eye shapes. If your eyes are small or close set, it will make them appear larger and further apart. If your eyes are deep set and don't have much eyelid showing like this, don't use light-coloured shadows. They will make heavy lids stand out more. Apply a darkish shade of eyeshadow all over the upper lid, starting close to the lashes, Don't apply the colour all the way up to your eyebrows. Use a brush to blend and fade away to nothing. A touch of colour on the outer half of the lower lid and a little halfway underneath will really open up your eyes. Finish off with mascara. Lip colours such as lipsticks and lip tints are made of ozocorite wax, carnauba wax, which is extracted from the leaves of the Brazilian carnauba palm, castor and jojoba oils, and of course many different colour pigments.
Lips are the final part of any makeup. They can be strongly defined or played down depending on your mood. But it is important to learn to put your lip makeup on properly because, as with eyeshadow, lipstick can help emphasize or alter the shape of your mouth. But if you do that, remember, don't overdo it. A good little trick before you start to do your lip makeup is just to put a little bit of highlighter here on the upper lip. It's the same highlighter that I used on Maxine's eyes. Draw it on. You don't want a white line, so rub your finger over it like that to make it soft. This makes the lips look a little bit fuller.
And then I'm going to use a lip pencil in a browny pink colour. A colour rather like a dark shade of natural lip colour, which is good for defining the mouth without having a strongly coloured line. Soften the depth of colour of line without spoiling the effect by gently running a clean fingertip over the line. Because I want a fairly unmade up look, instead of using a lipstick, which is a much stronger colour, I'm actually going to use a lip tint. Just smooth the lip tint straight from the applicator over your mouth. I always use a lip brush, which helps me to blend the lip tint into your lips, and also it helps blend it into the pencil line, because I don't want a dark line around the mouth. And then finally, you can give it a little blot with a tissue so it doesn't look too jammy. And then you've got a finished makeup.
Lipstick makes all the difference to your look. A lot of people think that unless your face actually has lipstick on it, it's not made up at all. Now, I showed you on Maxine how you could use a lip pencil to alter the shape of your mouth. You can also do the same thing with a lip brush. A lip brush is really important, and it's a very good thing to learn to use if you want a nice, clean, crisp edge to your lips. I've loaded the lip brush with a lipstick, and what you do is just draw the line along the edge of the mouth. You can extend it if you want to, but if you're going to overpaint the edge of your mouth, just do it by the merest hair's breadth, not very much at all. And don't try and draw with the point of the brush like this. That doesn't work. Use the flat edge. Lip brushes have chisel edges, so they'll actually make the shape for you. Don't try and draw the shape of your mouth by pursing your lips or trying to make your mouth a shape that it isn't naturally, especially if you want to do any correction of any kind. And then when you've got the line the way you want it to be, just fill in with the brush. And that's the application done. But if you get little spider lines, which is a really common problem, there is a little trick you can use, which is open your mouth for me, Karen, and close. Just blot carefully with a split tissue. I always use split tissues because if you use the double thickness, they sometimes stick too much. And then use a little bit of loose powder and just smile with your lips together and then press it just around the edges of the mouth. Not too much and not too far into the lips, but that little bit of powder will help to hold the lipstick in place. And it's important here not to rub, because of course you don't want to end up with the lipstick all over your face. Just press with the powder puff it will help to stop the lipstick running. And then if you think the lipstick looks a little bit matte, you can always put a little bit more on over the top, and that should really hold your lipstick in place. And if you've chosen a nice creamy waxy formula without too much gloss in it, it should stay on quite well.
You can use a lip liner pencil to define the edges of your mouth. Remember, when using a lip brush to outline your lips, use the flat edge of the chisel shape. Use a lip tint for less depth of lip colour and a more natural look. Blotch your lips and lightly powder the edges to help control spider lines.
These are the basic techniques of a professional makeup. Of course, there's no rule that says you have to do all of the makeup all of the time. You can incorporate any of the lessons you've learned into your daily routine.